Yeah. I will clean that eventually.
How do you even find anything?
I do command spacebar and I just search stuff.
What's the point then? You might as well just put it on like one folder, like.
That's true, yeah. I need to clean it up.
Like, it literally takes like 5 seconds.
It's senioritis. That's what it is.
Senioritis, yeah.
Anyway.
That's not a senior problem. That's like.
It's a bad habit.
That's how you know he's a CS major.
Too much stuff. All right. So hi guys, thank you for coming out today. So the workshop's going to be about what to do during your summer. So summer's a great time to like rest up from the previous school year since it's been a long 9 months. But there's a lot of things you could do during summer to really make the most of it. So in addition to having fun, there's times where you could advance like what you're interested in terms of like career or just like personal interests. So that's what we're going to be going over in this workshop. All right. So, but before we do that, there are some things to prepare you like during the school year. So this is just like a short overview of what you could do starting like next year to prepare for like summer in general. So we're gonna go over like a mini resume workshop as well. So credits to Samantha Chen, who was one of the previous fellowship chairs in previous years, and she had a really good resume guide. So we're gonna go over that. So it's very comprehensive. I'll put up these Google slides later on, but some of the main things that are really important are to really maximize the space on your resume. So let's look at her resume, for example. So some of the key factors over here are that it makes the most use of the space. Like there's really no white space that's really wasted. Like everything has a purpose. You have her objective, her education, UCLA, and some of the experience she's had. And the other important thing is sort of like in your personal statements for college applications. You really want to show and not tell about what your experience is. So for example, she's really describing like what she's done in each case. For foundations, she planned and executed 3 quarterly showcases. For things like Cornerstone, she acted as a liaison between clients and implementation consultants. So it's really comprehensive about what she's doing, and she really describes what she's done in each position. So that's good, instead of just telling like facts about each thing. So that's an important point to note. Also, for resumes in general, you want to keep it 1 page because recruiters don't want to go through like too much since they're getting so many resumes in general. If it's anything more than 1 page, they'll probably throw it out. So yeah, just keep it at 1 page. And if possible, try to tailor your resume towards the position you're applying for. So for example, if you're applying to like a tech company, you want to put more like some of your your side projects or software engineering stuff. If you want to apply to like mechanical engineering, like bowling or something else, like then you would do some of the things you've done with like what's that club called? ASME and like a few of the other ones. So you really want to tailor it towards like whatever position. Like business, you want to talk about some of the like future business leaders of America, pre-med, like some of the clinics you volunteered at. So that's really important. So when you're first starting off, it's okay to put things like an objective or like hobbies, but that's only if you don't have enough stuff to fill up the space. In general, you really want it to be your resume to be geared towards like the field or career you're going into. So yeah, that's pretty much just filler information at the beginning. And there's some really good resume templates online. I personally use Google Docs. You can also use some of the Microsoft Office ones on Word or Apple Pages, for example. All right. So we're each all of us are in Circle K. So this is an important thing you could actually put on your resume. So you want to really describe the things you've done in the club. And another thing I've learned over time is you want to quantify accomplishments if possible. Like you want to show like some statistics. For example, if you increase member retention by 150%, like you don't really have to like go into detail about where you got the numbers from, but generally numbers are stronger indicators of how you've performed in your role. So for example, if you're a subcommittee chair, you could say something like you created graphics for a weekly committee and general meetings. If you're a board member, you could say you produced videos that increase the number of club members by 125%. For MDear, such as family heads or godparents, you could say you coordinated events and logistics for like how many members are in your family. For mentors, you could say, yeah, advise 3 mentees on class planning and adapting to college life. And like even for general members, you could describe some of the things you've done at like service events. For example, if you went to Johnny Cochran, you could say you led a group of students on tours at Griffith Observatory. So it's really about describing what you've done in each position and just giving like detailed examples and like making it so that like they could really see like how much impact you've had. So that's important.
Question.
Yeah.
So how much would you suggest? So like say there's people with like more than one position,
Mhm.
then like how many would you say is too much of the thing under the same Circle K?
So I would say if you have multiple positions, like I would put each one, and then like if it's really geared towards like what you want to do, then definitely leave it on there. But if it's like something else that isn't as related, for example, if you want to go into like let's say like the technology industry, and let's say you're fundraising, or let's see, if you were what's a good example, like a mentor versus like a like technology chair, I would emphasize technology chair a lot more because what your responsibility is a lot more geared towards what you're going to do in the industry than like mentor, like because they're not really going to care necessarily as much. So it really depends on the role. But at the beginning, if you're just starting off, I would just include like all your positions, and then for each one, I would generally put like two to three bullet points and describe like what you've done. So that should be pretty comprehensive, I think. Yeah. Any more questions, anyone? Okay. So the other thing that's fairly common is like asking, do I need a cover letter? So from my personal experience, most companies or positions generally don't require cover letters. But if they do, it's usually nice to have because it really shows that you're interested in what the company does, and you can really make it a more personal feel when you're applying for the company. So in the case that they do, you want to do some research on the position you're applying for, explain some of your previous experience and how it could really make a difference if you were to get that position. So there's some good cover letter examples on this website. I don't know if we have time to go through this, but it really just shows like, for example, academic, just like some of the interests, for example. So some of the common things are you want to just start off like with the date, the person you're addressing, as well as like their department and like address. So actually, I have a better example. Sorry, this one's not as good. So this is the one Sam did for Yelp. So basically, the key points are that she gives like her key details up at the front, and then she addresses Yelp formally, like who she's referring to. Like in her case, she wants to go into human resources as a recruiter, so she's addressing that to them, and she's describing some of the experiences that she's had. So she was a sociology and French minor, and she's done various internships through Princess Cruises as well as Cornerstone. So this really facilitates her ability to communicate between those on the more technological side of things as well as the interpersonal side of things, like with the recruiters and the clients. So it shows that she's like a really strong candidate who has the soft skills as well as the technical knowledge to know like how things are implemented. So that's important to have. And if you want a good cover letter resume, this website's really good because it has a lot of cover letter examples for different industries as well. So you could do it for like engineering, arts, customer service, internships, real estate. It has a wide plethora of things. So this is a good one to check out. So the next thing is actually applying for the internships and jobs. So usually they have career fairs, and especially during fall and winter. Those are the peak times, like when you're applying for internships. And for jobs, you could do it pretty much year round, but it's generally, yeah, like all the companies are literally here during fall and winter. So that's usually when you want to start applying. And I've personally had the most success applying at career fairs because I was able to find my two internships there, which were at a startup called Taboola and then also Apple. And the other method is applying online. And this one's generally more difficult because they have like online screening systems that look for certain keywords, like if you've worked at like a top company like a Google or something. So this one's usually a lot more difficult right at the beginning, but you could do it. You could just apply directly on the website itself, or you could use tools like Bruinview. Have any of you guys heard of Bruinview? It's a good resource. Like I've used it for a few times and I've gotten a few interviews there. So this is like just one way that the Career Center just really helps out students, and you can find jobs there. Glassdoor is also pretty good because it gives reviews of like the companies and like how, what was this? Sorry. You could just look up like any certain company. So let's look up like Facebook, for example. What's up, Colin? So you can look up jobs at like Facebook, and they'll give you like descriptions about what the job description is, like reviews about Facebook. You can see Mark Zuckerberg's rating is very high, and like they'll give like people who actually work there. They will write out their reviews about the company. So this is nice, and you can also look up interview questions, like so you can find out like what they ask. So Glassdoor is a really useful website as well. LinkedIn is also useful. How many of you guys have a LinkedIn? This is very useful just to like connect with people. Like it's a great networking tool. So there's this random guy from Amazon. I don't know if I should connect with him. But basically you could use it to like just show your online portfolio and sort of describe what you've done. So like you could talk about your Circle K experience there, any other clubs or organizations you've been involved with. And it's very useful because a lot of recruiters are on LinkedIn nowadays and will try to find people from there. The other thing you could do is referrals, and this is why networking is so important, because basically it's who you know could really help you out in terms of your career growth, and it gets you ahead of other applicants because they'll prioritize those who've been referred over other people. So I've personally had referrals to Facebook and Appfolio, but unfortunately those interviews didn't work out, but it really gave me a leg up over like other applicants because I was able to just directly get an interview without having to go through like too much hassle. And if any of you guys want a referral to Taboola or Apple, just hit me up. I've got you found. All right, so that's that. And also cold emailing. So this one, it may or may not be as successful, but you have to be persistent because recruiters really like that people take initiative, and you could potentially get an interview. The worst thing that could happen is they just don't respond to you at all. Like, I've had that like with a few companies, but the one company I really wanted to work for was like Snap because they do really cool stuff with machine learning, computer vision. And I was able to cold email a recruiter and actually get an interview, which unfortunately didn't work out, but it was a step in the right direction. So it shows that cold emailing does work at times. So for actual interviews, it could be a scary thing, but what you want to do is you want to get there early and be prompt and courteous. So what Sam recommends, and I also recommend this, is to get there at least 15 minutes early, so you can relax before the actual interview. And what you have two types of interviews mostly. You have a behavioral one, which is to check if you're a good culture fit, like if you mesh well with the team. So they ask things like, describe a challenge that you've encountered in the past, what would you do in this situation, explain a personal project. So like if you apply to A-Board, they ask like a lot of these kinds of questions, as Kwa and Calvin can attest. And then they'll probably also ask you a technical question. And this is to test to see if you have knowledge in the position you're applying for. So for like software engineering, they'll ask you like data structures, algorithms. For other engineering, I would assume they would ask things like maybe physics or math questions. I'm not as sure for like if you're applying to like fellowships or like research. I'm not as sure about that, but I would assume it's very similar. And after the interview, what you always want to do is you want to have 2 to 3 questions to ask the interviewer, because this shows that you've done research on the company itself and like you're really interested in like the company culture and you want to learn more. So some good ones that I've used in the past are: describe a typical day on your job, what is your favorite thing about the job, and what is your least favorite thing about the job. So these are pretty comprehensive, and it could give you a good feel of the culture fit and how it meshes with your personal fit. And what you never want to do, though, is you don't want to talk about compensation or benefits during the job interview, because you don't know until you actually get the job. So that just looks bad. And also, yeah, this is pretty much just common sense, but just be a nice person. Don't be a douchebag. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So once you actually get the position, it is advisable to thank everyone who interviewed you during the process, because it's just a nice thing to do, and you don't want to burn bridges with recruiters, because you could always just contact them later on, and who knows, they might have an open position that suits you better, and then you could always work for them later. And if you have multiple job offers, you want to pick based on what's the best fit for you. So this is sort of the same principle you use when you decide which college or university to attend. Like, you have your set of colleges that you've been accepted to, and you want to pick the one that suits you best. Like, things such as like location, cost, personal fit, those are very important things to keep in mind. And for me personally, ideally, I would want to work at a company where I actually use their products, because that means like I'm really engaged in what they're building out, and I would actually have an interest in that. So that's sort of why I didn't really return to Taboola, because they're more of software as a service. They're more advertising, and I don't personally use that, whereas I use a lot of Apple products. So that made a lot more sense to me. And once you have decided what you're going to do, you want to inform your recruiter, because they'll guide you through the rest of the process, and yeah, you should be proud of what you've accomplished, so that's good. What you don't want to do, though, is you don't want to keep interviewing, because this is dishonest once you've accepted a position, and it just takes away opportunities from those who are still looking. So that's kind of a bad move. And this is called reneging. It's basically backing off from your word and saying, like, if you were going to work for a company and you later say that you're not going to work for them anymore. And this is definitely a way to burn a bridge. You don't want to do this. So from personal experience, I have a friend who reneged on Workday, which is a software as a service company in Pleasanton in NorCal for Amazon. And that looked really bad because Workday told the Career Center, and they were basically really pissed off. So my friend cannot use the Career Center's services anymore. So there's some bad repercussions. So you generally don't want to do that. So now we're going to go to the actual summer stuff. And so if you're a freshman going into your sophomore year, ideally you want to get a position related to your intended occupation. And any experience is better than no experience. So you try not to be as picky, like, because it's just like your first like summer in college. So you just want to pick like whatever suits your interests. Like, you can't really be too picky about that. If you do get something you really want, that's really awesome, but just as long as it's on the right path, then you should be in good shape. So some common things that I've heard from friends are they've volunteered at health clinics if they're more of the pre-med, pre-health route, programming for groups at UCLA, so they have things like Build UCLA, Daily Bruin, ACM, so that's good if you're more interested in software engineering, or helping out as an office assistant at a UCLA department. So this is a common job, I feel like, more for like business from what I've heard. And if you really need to earn money and you don't want to like work in some of these positions, you could work at a summer job such as like tutoring, coaching a sport or instrument or whatever. But this is probably not as beneficial to you in the long run because it's not really geared toward your career interests. So I wouldn't recommend this as much. Supposedly, undergraduate research opportunities and on-campus jobs are easier to obtain since supervisors understand you have less experience. So I personally don't know because I didn't do undergrad research during summer or an on-campus job when I was here summer of 2014. But from personal experience though, on-campus jobs are definitely easier to find. Like Build UCLA was my first on-campus job doing programming, and they're really understanding that you don't have enough experience initially, so they really guide you through the process, and I felt that really helped me out in the long run. So that's something to keep in mind. And this is probably the best time to take summer classes, honestly, if you cannot find anything related to your intended field, since you don't have as much experience and it won't hurt you as much in the long run. So I personally did summer. Yeah, I personally took summer sessions A&C after my freshman year. So I took like Math 61, 4AL, 1C, Physics 4BL. And this is nice because it allowed me to have a more chill senior year, which is basically right now. And then I had a good time because I went to a lot of the summer CKI events and also local events like 626 Night Market. So I was able to go back home to Monterey Park, which was nice, go to OC a few times, and yeah, I had a good time that summer. And also the important thing is to really have a good balance. Like, you don't want to like just do like all work, all academics. You want to have fun at times. So some of the fun things were I went to San Diego before summer school started. I saw like Balboa Park, Maritime Museum of San Diego, things like that. And then after summer school, I went to like a lot of places in the Bay Area. And then some other fun, cool things that I did were I warmed up tennis pros at a Futures event. That was a fun thing. It was a good experience. It really put me in my place. But yeah, that was good. So the important thing is have fun as well as focus on your career. So the next thing is the summer from sophomore to junior year. So if you did an internship the summer after freshman year, what you could do is you can either go back to that internship or try a different company. So what I've heard is that it's generally recommended to try different companies when you intern because you want to experience different work environments, see which one suits you best like once you graduate, post-graduation. And the same principle applies to the summer after your junior year. So it all depends on your personal fit. So for example, in the technology industry, the main two types of companies are startups and corporations. So startups are more fast-paced, they're less stable, you take on more responsibility, but they're more likely to go under. Whereas corporations tend to be very stable, it's very hard to have career advancement, and you don't have as much control over the product. So it's like really what you want to do. If you want stability early in your life, then I would go more of the corporate route. Otherwise, if you really want to get potential equity in perhaps the next like Facebook or Google or Snapchat, then startup routes are probably the way to go in that case. And some other things that I've heard people do are study abroad through UCEAP, so like Calvin and a few friends like that are my year, such as like Albert, Michelle, Eilina, did it, and they did it at Sussex. Eilina did it in Dublin, I think, and then they knocked out a few courses, but they also had a lot of fun traveling. So yeah, this is going back on like really enjoying yourself and just like having a good balance, like because summer is a time to relax as well as to advance yourself. So, and also, this is a good time to reflect on what you're really interested in because you're going into the halfway point of your college career. So, this is when you should usually start taking your upper division classes. So, this should help you narrow down what your areas of focus are. So, for example, if you're in like, I guess like a pre-med route, you could see like which area of like biology or like whatever you're really interested in and which area of focus. If you're in computer science, like you could figure out if you like operating systems or graphics or AI or databases or things like that. So personally for me, I interned at a startup called Taboola in Pasadena. So this was my first industry level internship, and it was good because I learned a lot about how startups work and about just like software development in general. And the nice thing about it was close to home, so I could just commute, which saved a lot on housing. This is also something to keep in mind. Some internships don't provide housing, so then like you'll have to look for it yourself, which is kind of a pain. But this was nice because I could literally just like go from home, which was saved a lot on housing. And yeah, I ate a lot of good food, which was fun. I met a lot of really cool interns and coworkers. So the great thing about internships is it's a great way to network, and like you really want to connect with your peers as well as your higher ups and your coworkers because they could really put in a good word for you later on with letters of recommendation. And yeah, I went indoor skydiving, which is fun. And then I also traveled a lot with family, visited a lot of places in SoCal. And then for my personal knowledge, I just tried to learn iOS development during this time. So I just picked it up through online resources. So another thing like I recommend doing is if there's something you want to learn, like the internet is your best friend. Like you can literally find almost anything on the internet. You can find tutorials on how to do like programming, how to cook, I guess like play instruments, like do like basically anything, draw. So if you really want to learn something and you don't want to take like a formal class, you can literally find a resource online. Like some good ones are through like Udemy, Udacity, Lynda. I think Lynda has like free courses for college students, so that's cool. And yeah, during this time I made my first iOS game, so that was a fun side project and it really helped out when applying to internships junior year. And then I went to my first out-of-state hackathon. So this is part of like having fun. So it was at Ann Arbor in Michigan. And then this is sort of where I networked with a few of the Apple engineers and sort of just showed off like what I was working on and just really helped me get the foot in the door. So networking is very important. Yeah. So now, junior to senior year. So this is definitely the most important summer for your post-undergraduate career. And this is when you want to try to find an internship or research opportunity at a company or a lab where you want to work for full-time. So because the conversion process for interns to full-time is generally pretty high, like when you're at the stage, because they want to hire you back. Like the main priority for companies is trying to retain their interns because they're essentially sort of cheap labor at the beginning, but then it's sort of a way to see like, do you fit the role well and like, do you actually mix well with the company? So like in addition to them getting like a good source of labor like for the summer, you have a potential job opportunity. So this is important. So some of the things like that I've seen people do are like shadowing a professional in a field they're interested in. So like Eilina, who's a pre-med, was working with like a doctor's clinic. And if graduate school is on your mind or a professional school like medical school, then you want to spend most of the summer studying and taking the exam at the end. So this also helps you get a head start on your graduate school applications if you're absolutely set on this route. So you want to probably start early. And this will reduce the amount of stress you'll have during the school year. So imagine like you're back in your high school senior self, you're applying to colleges, and yeah, it's just a very stressful time. Why not get a head start and try to do it during summer? So I personally am not planning on going to graduate school anytime soon, so I wouldn't know this from a personal experience, but I feel like if you start earlier, then it's less stress during the school year, and you could enjoy yourself more. So my junior to senior summer, yeah, I interned at Apple, which was an amazing experience. I learned a lot about how just like software engineering works at a big corporation. And the nice thing was they actually pay for corporate housing. So with some of the bigger companies, I feel they provide a lot of things for you, which is really nice because some of them provide housing, others will give you like a stipend, and they'll handle like a lot of the relocation, which is really nice. So I also had a lot of fun because I visited many places in NorCal. So I went hiking, I went to a few amusement parks, and then I visited tech companies. And then the cool thing about Apple is it's just like a university. There's like fun things to do. So I joined like an a cappella group, even though I still suck, but it was fun. And then I played a lot of tennis, so that was good. So I had a really good time this past summer. And now this is the last summer. So it's like when you're a senior going on to like graduating and the summer afterwards. So if you're going to graduate or professional school, it's common to take a gap year. So like this is especially true like if you're going like the pre-med route. So I've heard a lot of pre-med friends say they're going to take a gap year, they're probably going to travel. And it makes sense because after 4 or more long years of studying, you've earned it. You want to take a break, you don't want to burn yourself out too quickly. And other people, yeah, they go on vacation abroad to places like Europe or Asia. So this goes back to enjoying yourself. Summer is a time to reflect on what you've done and just have a good time. And if you're starting a job after graduation, what you want to do is contact your manager and ask him or her about what to expect on the job. Don't worry too much about learning too much technically just like right away, because most companies will have training for new hires. So it takes a few weeks to get accustomed to everything on the job. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Like they'll teach you everything, so don't worry about that. And if you're moving to a new place for a job or graduate school, make sure you figure out housing early, because this is just like finding an apartment like during the school year. Like it's ridiculous. It's a pain. So a good way to do it is like through Facebook groups, other online portals. Personally, there's a lot of scary people over the internet, so I would shy away from online portals, and it really helps to like know people in the area. So then try to reach out to friends who live there, and then yeah, just try to avoid things like Craigslist, because there's a lot of horror stories. And yeah, give yourself a pat on the back because you've graduated and enjoying life. So yeah. So my plan senior to graduation summer, I'm going to travel with family to Nevada to visit Vegas, Utah, and a lot of the national parks, work on some side projects. Like I've never made a Google Chrome extension, so I want to do that. I want to learn how to actually play instruments like guitar and piano, because yeah, it's hard to do covers without that. And learning how to cook is an important one. This has been a personal goal of mine, but I've kept backing off on that because I've been lazy. So yeah, get back into competitive tennis would be fun. And then hopefully at the end of summer, go to the US Open with family and visit New York, New England, like Boston with family. So some of the common things you could do for any summer though is you definitely want to try to intern or work in your intended field at least once, and try to avoid taking unpaid internships because they tend to be more sneaky about like things like in the long run it's probably not the best idea, and the company is probably corrupt, or immoral. And more experience never hurts, but you want to keep in mind that quality is better than quantity. So you want to make sure the work you are doing is meaningful and interesting to you personally. So like internships are a good way to figure out like what you want to do as like a career. So yeah, this is a good way to find out what you're truly interested in. You could do summer school, but I personally feel you should only do this one summer at most, because yeah, otherwise you're taking away times where you could intern or like work on other stuff or travel or have fun. Like I personally don't think school is that fun, so yeah. You could build out your portfolio, which includes side projects such as like things like software projects, videos, photography, drawing, whatever you're interested in. So you could just build out a portfolio and you could put it on like a personal website or just like on your resume. So that's good. So having a balance between like fun and work is really important. So you want to spend time with friends and family. So this is where you balance academics and well-being. So yeah, just take some time off, hang out with friends, go back home to your family, and then just have a good time. Traveling to new places is always good. Yeah, study abroad. Knock out some classes along the way and explore some different countries, like through UCEAP, for example. And the most important thing out of any summer experience is to relax and have fun. Be proud of what you've accomplished so far, because you've done a lot. Like getting into college and just working through the rigor of like your university or college it's difficult. But give yourself a pat on the back and just be proud of what you've done. But at the same time, you want to stay hungry, stay foolish, as Steve Jobs would say, because there's always room for personal growth and you never stop learning. So yeah, that's the end of the presentation. Any questions? Sorry, yeah.
Would it be manageable to do? Because I was planning on taking summer school this summer and also like an internship.
That's definitely possible. You just have to like figure out how to manage it. Like, do you know how many hours a week like the internship is? 'Cause
Well, I'm still like I have an interview like on Friday.
oh dang, good luck. Okay, so what I would recommend is you want to space the summer session such that you could go to the internship like after your class or whatever.
Yeah.
So I would try to minimize the workload during summer, but it's definitely doable. It's just harder because like in addition on like working, you have to do like homework afterwards, so it's a little bit more stress. But I would definitely talk to your hiring manager afterwards and figure out like how to balance your schedule from there. But it is possible. I've heard people doing it. It's just more stressful. And yeah, if like when you get the position, I would personally just like figure out like if it's too much work to do summer school, just drop summer school. Like don't worry too much like about like if it'll affect your graduation date. Like it's more important to have the experience, than just taking classes because like everyone takes the same classes. Like not everyone gets the same hands-on experience. Yeah. Does anyone else have? Okay, all right. So I guess yeah, that was it. Thank you guys for being a great audience. This is also going to be posted on the Facebook group. So yeah. Hopefully it was helpful.